The alien academy was silent under the cold glow of its silver lights. Long corridors stretched like veins through the massive structure, each lined with doors that had classrooms, labs, and training halls. Students from dozens of species slept in their quarters, unaware of the storm about to break. Then, the alarm shattered the silence. A deep, metallic siren roared through the halls, shaking walls and rattling glass. Red lights flashed, painting the academy in blood-colored shadows. Doors slid open, confused voices filled the air, and panic spread like fire. Something had escaped in the lower levels, where the academy kept its most dangerous specimens. A predator had broken free. Its cage was torn apart, steel bent like paper, and claw marks scarred the walls. The creature moved with terrifying speed, its heavy steps echoing like thunder. Every breath it took was a growl, every movement a promise of violence. Security drones rushed to intercept, but they were no match. One swipe of its claws sent sparks flying, metal bodies crashing to the floor. The predator kept moving, unstoppable, driven by instinct. Students ran through the corridors, some screaming, others frozen in fear. Alien guards shouted orders, trying to form a defense line, but the predator slipped past them, hunting. Its eyes glowed in the dark, scanning, searching. Up above, in the training hall, a young human named Alex was trapped. He had been studying late, reviewing combat tactics, when the alarm went off. Now the doors had locked, sealing him inside. He pressed his back against the wall, heart pounding, clutching the pendant his mentor had given him. The sound of claws scraping against metal grew louder that Alex's breath caught. He knew the predator was coming. The hall lights flickered, shadows danced across the walls, and then the massive figure appeared. The predator stepped into the hall, towering, its body covered in scars, its jaws dripping with rage. It stepped forward slowly, claws scraping the floor, but it did not attack. Instead, it studied Alex as if trying to understand why its cubs trusted him. Every second stretched into eternity. The guards outside grew restless. "Fire!" one shouted, but another stopped him. "Wait, look at the cubs." The predator's growl returned, low and deep, but it was not a sound of rage. It was a sound of warning. It was telling the guards to stay back. Alex's heart raced. He realized something. The predator was not just a beast. It was a parent, and right now, its cubs were choosing him. The hall lights flickered again, casting long shadows across the walls. The predator's massive form loomed over Alex, but instead of striking, it lowered its head. Its eyes met his, filled with a strange mix of anger, confusion, and something else: respect. The cubs chirped softly, pressing closer to Alex. The predator's claws flexed, but it did not move. The academy had never seen anything like this. A predator unleashed, yet frozen by the sight of its cubs bonded with a human. The suspense hung heavy, unanswered questions filling the air. Why did the cubs choose Alex? Would the predator accept him or destroy him? The sirens wailed, the guards waited, and Alex stood frozen, caught between fear and destiny. And in that moment, the story truly began. The alarm still screamed across the alien academy, but inside the training hall, silence ruled. The predator stood frozen, its cubs pressed against Alex, and the guards outside waited for the order to fire. Alex's heart pounded so hard he thought the predator could hear it. He had never been this close to death before. The creature's claws gleamed under the red emergency lights, sharp enough to tear through steel. Yet it did not move. The cubs chirped softly, their small voices breaking the tension. They looked up at Alex with trust, as if he were their shield. Alex swallowed, his throat dry. He remembered the day he had saved them. It had been weeks ago, during a training exercise. A chamber malfunctioned, collapsing around the cubs. Everyone else had run, but Alex had stayed. He had lifted debris with his bare hands, pulling the cubs free. They had clung to him then, frightened but alive. He thought they would forget, but they hadn't. Now, in this hall filled with danger, they had chosen him again. The predator's eyes narrowed. It tilted its head, studying Alex. Its growl was low, uncertain. It was not the sound of a hunter, it was the sound of a parent trying to understand. Alex dared not move. He kept his hands open, showing he held no weapon. His pendant glowed faintly under the flashing lights, catching the predator's gaze. Outside, the guards argued. "We must fire," one shouted. "It will kill him." Another shook his head. "Look at the cubs. They are protecting the human. If we fire, we risk hitting them." The academy leaders arrived, their robes flowing as they stepped into the observation deck. They watched in silence, eyes wide. Never before had they seen a predator hesitate. Inside, Alex slowly lowered himself to one knee, trying to appear smaller, less threatening. The cubs followed, crouching beside him. The predator's eyes flicked from Alex to its cubs, then back again. It stepped forward. Alex's breath caught. The predator's massive shadow fell over him, claws scraping the floor. He wanted to run, but his legs refused to move. The cubs chirped again, pressing closer to him. The predator stopped just a few feet away. Its chest rose and fell, heavy with emotion. It leaned down, its face inches from Alex's. The air was thick with its hot breath, smelling of iron and smoke. Alex stared into its eyes. He expected rage, but what he saw was confusion. The predator was torn between instinct and bond. The cubs reached out, touching their parent's arm. Their small claws tapped gently, as if asking for peace. The predator growled, softer now. It looked at Alex again, and for the first time, its eyes showed something strange, respect. The guards outside shifted nervously. "What is happening?" one whispered. The academy leader raised a hand. "Do not fire. Watch." Alex finally spoke, his voice trembling but steady. "I won't hurt them." The predator's ears twitched. It understood the tone, if not the words. It leaned closer, sniffing the air around Alex, testing his scent. The cubs chirped louder, pressing against Alex's chest. They were showing their parent that this human was family. The predator pulled back slightly, its claws lowering. It did not strike. The hall was filled with suspense. Every second felt like a lifetime. Alex's mind raced. He realized something powerful. The cubs had bonded with him, and their parent could not ignore that bond. This was more than survival. This was trust. The predator straightened, towering over them. It let out a roar, not of attack, but of warning. The sound shook the walls, sending guards stumbling back. It was telling everyone, "Do not touch my cubs. Do not touch this human." The academy leaders exchanged looks. This was history unfolding before their eyes. A predator, the most feared creature in the galaxy, had chosen not to kill a human. Alex stayed kneeling, his hands still open. He whispered softly, "It's okay. I'm here." The cubs chirped again, their voices like echoes of his words. The predator's growl faded into silence. It turned its head, scanning the guards outside, daring them to move. None did. For the first time, Alex felt a strange calm. He realized he was not prey anymore. He was something else, something the predator respected. The hall lights flickered, shadows stretching across the walls. The predator stepped back, still watching Alex. Its cubs stayed close to him, refusing to leave. The academy leader spoke quietly to the guards. "Hold your fire. This is no ordinary breach. This is a bond." Alex's heart slowed, though fear still lingered. He knew this was only the beginning. The predator had not attacked, but its presence was a storm waiting to break. The cubs chirped once more, their voices soft but strong. The predator growled in response, a sound that carried both warning and acceptance. The hall remained locked in suspense. No one moved. No one dared. And in that silence, a new truth was born. Humans could form bonds that even predators could not break. The academy had witnessed the impossible. But Alex knew the danger was far from over. The predator had spared him, for now. What came next would decide the fate of the academy, the cubs, and perhaps the future of humans among the stars. The predator stood in the training hall, its massive frame casting long shadows under the flashing red lights. Its claws flexed, scraping the floor, but it did not strike. For the first time in its life, it hesitated. The cubs clung to Alex, their small bodies pressed against his side. Their eyes shone with trust, their chirps soft but steady. They were not afraid of the human. They were not afraid of their parent. They were showing loyalty to both. The predator's chest rose and fell, heavy with confusion. It had broken free to hunt, to destroy, yet now it faced something it could not understand. Its instincts screamed to kill, but its heart, its bond with its cubs, held it back. Outside the hall, guards whispered nervously. "Why is it not attacking?" one asked. The academy leader's voice was calm but sharp. "Because it sees something we do not. Watch closely." Inside, Alex stayed kneeling, his hands open, his body still. He knew one wrong move could end his life, but he also knew the cubs were his only shield. The predator leaned closer, its eyes locked on Alex. It studied him, searching for weakness, searching for threat. But what it saw was something else: courage. The human did not run. He did not fight. He stayed, protecting the cubs. The predator's growl faded into silence. Its claws lowered, its shoulders tense. It was shocked. Never before had it seen its cubs bond with another species. Never before had it felt its instincts clash with its emotions. The cubs chirped again, their voices soft but strong. They reached out, touching their parent's arm. Their small claws tapped gently, as if asking for peace. The predator froze. Its eyes flicked from the cubs to Alex, then back again. It understood. The cubs were choosing the human. The hall was filled with suspense. Every second stretched into eternity that Alex's mind raced. He remembered the day he had saved them, the way they had clung to him, the way their eyes had shone with trust. He realized now that moment had changed everything. The cubs had bonded with him, and their parent could not ignore that bond. The predator straightened, towering over them. It let out a roar, not of attack, but of warning. The sound shook the walls, sending guards stumbling back. It was telling everyone, "Do not touch my cubs. Do not touch this human." The academy leaders exchanged looks. This was history unfolding before their eyes. A predator, the most feared creature in the galaxy, had chosen not to kill a human. Alex stayed kneeling, his heart pounding. He whispered softly, "It's okay. I'm here." The cubs chirped louder, their voices echoing his words. The predator's growl returned, low and deep, but it was not rage. It was acceptance. It was the sound of a parent recognizing something new. The guards outside lowered their weapons, uncertain. "What do we do?" one asked. The academy leader raised a hand. "We wait. This is no ordinary breach. This is a bond." Inside, the predator stepped back, still watching Alex. Its eyes burned with shock, but also with respect. It had seen something impossible, a human who could stand beside its cubs without fear. The hall lights flickered, shadows stretching across the walls. The predator's massive form loomed, but it did not strike. Instead, it turned its head, scanning the guards outside, daring them to move. None did. Alex's heart slowed, though fear still lingered. He realized he was not prey anymore. He was something else, something the predator respected. The cubs chirped once more, their voices soft but strong. The predator growled in response, a sound that carried both warning and acceptance. The hall remained locked in suspense. No one moved, no one dared, and in that silence, a new truth was born. Humans could form bonds that even predators could not break. The academy had witnessed the impossible, but Alex knew the danger was far from over. The predator had spared him, for now. What came next would decide the fate of the academy, the cubs, and perhaps the future of humans among the stars. The alien academy was no longer calm. The alarm screamed, red lights flashed, and the corridors shook with the sound of running feet. But inside the training hall, everything was frozen in silence. The predator stood tall, its cubs pressed against Alex, and the guards outside waited for orders they did not want to give. The academy leaders had gathered in the observation deck above the hall. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide. They had seen predators before, but never like this. Never hesitating, never protecting a human. One of the leaders, a tall alien with silver skin, spoke sharply. "This is impossible. Predators do not bond. They kill. They hunt. They do not stop." Another leader shook his head. "And yet it has stopped. Look at its cubs. They are choosing the human. We must understand why." The guards below shifted nervously. Their weapons hummed with power, ready to fire, but none dared to move. The predator's roar had warned them. Attack, and the cubs would die. Alex stayed kneeling, his hands open, his heart pounding. He could feel the cubs pressing against him, their small claws gripping his clothes. He whispered softly, "It's okay. Stay close." The cubs chirped, their voices echoing through the hall. The predator growled in response, low and deep, but not in anger. It was a sound of warning, a sound of protection. The academy leader raised a hand. "Hold your fire. This is no ordinary breach. This is history." The guards hesitated, lowering their weapons slightly. They had never disobeyed orders before, but something about the scene made them pause. The predator's eyes flicked to the observation deck. It saw the leaders watching, judging. Its growl grew louder, daring them to act. The leaders whispered among themselves. "If we attack, we risk killing the cubs. If we do nothing, we risk losing control of the academy." Another voice spoke, calm but firm. "Perhaps control is already lost. Perhaps this human has changed everything." Inside the hall, Alex's mind raced. He knew the predator had spared him, but he also knew the danger was far from over. The guard could fire at any moment. The leaders could order his death. He had to act. Slowly, he raised his voice. "I saved him once. I will not let anyone hurt them now." The predator's ears twitched. It understood the tone, if not the words. Its growl softened, its claws lowering. The leaders leaned forward, listening. "Did you hear that? The human speaks with courage. The predator listens." The guards exchanged nervous glances. "What do we do?" One whispered. The leader's voice was sharp. "We wait. We watch. This is no ordinary human." The predator stepped closer to Alex, its massive shadow falling over him. The cubs chirped louder, pressing against his chest. The predator's eyes burned with shock, but also with respect. The hall lights flickered, shadows stretching across the walls. The predator's roar shook the academy once more, but it was not a roar of rage. It was a roar of claim. It was telling everyone, "This human is mine. My cubs are his. Touch him, and you face me." The leaders gasped. It has claimed him. A predator has claimed a human. The guards lowered their weapons completely. None dared to fire now. Alex's heart slowed, though fear still lingered. He realized he was not prey anymore. He was something else, something the predator respected. The cubs chirped again, their voices soft but strong. The predator growled in response, a sound that carried both warning and acceptance. The academy leaders whispered among themselves. "This changes everything. If humans can bond with predators, what does that mean for the galaxy?" Another voice answered, trembling. "It means humans are not prey. It means they are something more." The hall remained locked in suspense. No one moved. No one dared. Alex stayed kneeling, his hands open, his body still. He whispered softly, "I won't leave you." The predator's eyes narrowed, its growl fading into silence. It understood. The leaders stepped back, their faces pale. They had seen the impossible. A predator unleashed, yet frozen by the sight of its cubs bonded with a human. The academy had witnessed history, but Alex knew the danger was far from over. The predator had spared him, for now. What came next would decide the fate of the academy, the cubs, and perhaps the future of humans among the stars. The training hall was still locked in silence. The predator stood tall, its cubs pressed against Alex, and the guards outside waited, unsure of what to do. The academy leaders leaned forward, their eyes fixed on the impossible scene. Alex's heart pounded, but his mind began to clear. He knew this moment was not random. The cubs had chosen him for a reason, and the predator's hesitation proved it. The truth was buried in the past, and now it was rising to the surface. Weeks ago, during a training experiment, Alex had been assigned to observe the predator cubs. The academy wanted to study their instincts, their reactions to stress. But something went wrong. A chamber malfunctioned, collapsing around the cubs. Metal beams fell, smoke filled the air, and alarms screamed. Everyone else had run. The alien students had fled, the guards had hesitated, but Alex had stayed. He had rushed into the collapsing chamber, ignoring the danger. His hands bled as he lifted debris. His lungs burned as he pulled the cubs free. He had carried them out, coughing, shaking, but alive. The cubs had clung to him then, their small claws gripping his clothes, their eyes wide with fear. He had whispered softly, "You're safe now. I won't let go." That moment had changed everything. The cubs had imprinted on him, seeing him not as prey, but as protector. Now, in the training hall, that truth was revealed. The predator's eyes narrowed as it studied Alex. It remembered the scent of its cubs when they had returned from the experiment. It remembered their strange calm, their strange loyalty. And now it understood. This human had saved them. This human had earned their trust. The predator's growl softened, its claws lowering. It was not rage anymore. It was recognition. The academy leaders whispered among themselves. He saved them. That is why they bond with him. Another voice trembled. If humans can bond with predators, what does that mean for the galaxy? Inside the hall, Alex stayed kneeling, his hands open. He whispered again, "I won't hurt them. I never will." The cubs chirped louder, their voices echoing his words. The predator leaned closer, its massive shadow falling over him. It sniffed the air, testing his scent. It smelled truth. It smelled courage. It smelled the bond its cubs had chosen. The predator pulled back slightly, its eyes burning with shock. It had never seen this before, never felt this before. A human standing beside its cubs, not as prey, but as family. The guards outside lowered their weapons completely. None dared to fire now. The academy leader spoke softly. "This is no ordinary human. This is no ordinary bond. We must understand it." The hall lights flickered, shadows stretching across the walls. The predator straightened, towering over them all. It let out a roar, not of attack, but of claim. The sound shook the academy, sending guards stumbling back. It was telling everyone, "This human saved my cubs. This human is theirs. Touch him, and you face me." The leaders gasped. It has accepted him. A predator has accepted a human. Alex's heart slowed, though fear still lingered. He realized he was not prey anymore. He was something else, something the predator respected. The cubs chirped again, their voices soft but strong. The predator growled in response, a sound that carried both warning and acceptance. The academy leaders exchanged looks. This changes everything. If humans can bond with predators, then humans are not prey. There's something more. Another voice whispered, trembling. Perhaps humans are the key. Perhaps they're special. The hall remained locked in suspense. No one moved. No one dared. Alex stayed kneeling, his hands open, his body still. He whispered softly, "I will protect them. Always." The predator's eyes narrowed, its growl fading into silence. It understood. The leaders stepped back, their faces pale. They had seen the impossible. A predator unleashed, yet frozen by the sight of its cubs bonded with a human. The academy had witnessed history. But Alex knew the danger was far from over. The predator had spared him, for now. What came next would decide the fate of the academy, the cubs, and perhaps the future of humans among the stars. The training hall was heavy with silence. The alarm still screamed in the distance, but inside, no one moved. The predator stood tall, its cubs pressed against Alex, and the guards outside lowered their weapons, unsure of what they had just witnessed. The academy leaders leaned forward, their faces pale. They had seen predators fight, kill, and destroy. But never had they seen one bow its head. The predator's chest rose and fell, its breath hot and heavy. Its eyes locked on Alex, burning with emotions it had never shown before. Rage had faded. Confusion had passed. What remained was something new. Respect. The cubs chirped softly, their small claws gripping Alex's clothes. They looked at their parent, then at Alex, their voices echoing in the hall. They were not afraid. They were proud. Alex stayed kneeling, his hands open, his heart pounding. He whispered softly, "I will protect them. Always." The predator tilted its head, studying him. It stepped closer, its massive shadow falling over him. The guards tensed, but the predator did not strike. Instead, it lowered itself, bending its knees, bowing its head. Gasps filled the observation deck. The leaders could not believe what they were seeing. A predator, the most feared creature in the galaxy, bowing to a human. The roar that followed was not of rage. It was a roar of claim, a roar of acceptance. The sound shook the academy, echoing through the halls. It was telling everyone, this human is family. This human is mine. Touch him, and you face me. The cubs chirped louder, their voices filled with joy. They pressed against Alex, their eyes shining. Alex's heart slowed. He realized the truth. He was no longer prey. He was no longer a student trapped in fear. He was something more. He was protector, ally, family. The academy leaders whispered among themselves. This changes everything. If humans can bond with predators, then humans are not prey. There's something more. Another voice trembled. Perhaps humans are the key. Perhaps they are special. The guards lowered their weapons completely. None dared to fire now. The predator straightened, towering once more. It looked at the leaders, its eyes burning with warning. It growled, low and deep, daring them to act. But none did. The hall lights flickered, shadows stretching across the walls. The predator's massive form loomed, but it did not strike. Instead, it stood beside Alex, its cubs pressed against him. The academy had witnessed history. Alex stayed kneeling, his hands open, his body still. He whispered softly, I won't leave you. The predator's growl faded into silence. It understood. The leaders stepped back, their faces pale. They had seen the impossible. A predator unleashed, yet frozen by the sight of its cubs bonded with a human. The academy had witnessed the truth. Humans could form bonds that even predators could not break. The cubs chirped again, their voices soft but strong. The predator growled in response, a sound that carried both warning and acceptance. The hall remained locked in suspense. No one moved. No one dared. But the message was clear. Humans were not prey. Humans were not weak. Humans were special. They could form bonds that transcended fear, instinct, and even alien hostility. They could change the future of the galaxy. The academy leaders whispered among themselves. This is the beginning. This is the proof. Humans are different. Humans are unique. Alex's heart slowed, though fear still lingered. He realized he had changed everything. The predator had spared him, had accepted him, had bowed to him. The cubs chirped once more, their voices filled with hope. The predator growled in response, a sound that carried across the academy. The hall remained locked in silence, but the truth was clear. Humans were special. Humans were HFY. And in that moment, the story truly began.